she had the same feeling we all have. I don't care if you are a $30,000 a year coordinator or you're a $400,000 a year CMO, CEO. We all have that same feeling that like, will someone find out? How did I luck into this role? You didn't. You know what you're doing. You are smart. Maybe there's like one or two people in the world that lucked into their role. But the rest of us, especially females, we worked our ass off to get where we're at.
Welcome to The Prosper Brief, a show dedicated to elevating the future of the food service and hospitality industry. I am your host, Jeremiah Wynn, and today we are joined by Erin Levzow, a marketing executive with a track record of bold leadership and innovation in the restaurant and hospitality space. In this episode, we're talking all about self-advocacy and the mindset shifts needed to break through career roadblocks. If you've ever struggled to speak up or felt stuck in your career, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. Okay, everyone, welcome Erin to the podcast. Erin, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, we're really glad to have you. You know, you do your own podcast, so I'm really excited to just finally have this collaboration come together.
I'm psyched as well. Bite Size and Bossy.
Tell us about that. What is Bite Size and Bossy, and where does that stem from?
So in the restaurant industry, a few of us ladies were sitting around realizing that there are not a lot of female-focused hosted podcasts. And we talked about it, and someone goes, why isn't there? And someone said, well, not enough women have raised their hand to do it. And I went, all right, let's do it. And so we all came together and created Bite Size and Bossy, which is a female-forward podcast for the restaurant industry, lifting up women from all walks of life. How did you get to the C-suite? How are you getting to the C-suite? What are your goals, objectives, and then fun things like, how does your hair look that good? And let's be honest, all of us need that stuff. I need that stuff. Like I brush my hair and I'm like, I don't know. I want to be like them too.
Yeah. Okay, so I really like that because it kind of goes with the theme that we're talking about today, which is self-advocacy. And like you said, not enough women have raised their hand to do it. And it seemed like you've always been the woman to raise your hand to do things like this, right?
Well, I can't help but do that. I will tell you, we interviewed a woman who runs conferences for our industry. And she said, I said to her, why don't we see more women on panels? Like, why are there not, like occasionally you get like a woman on a panel. Like, why aren't there more? And she goes, they don't raise their hand. And I lost my mind because I know so many amazing women. Raise your hand. Like women out there, like if you're thinking I'm not good enough or I'm not pretty enough or I'm not smart enough, just raise your hand because chances are someone who is of an opposite sex, gender, whatever, they're raising their hand. Raise your hand. You are smart. You are worth it. People want to hear from you. And that's so important because we don't have enough women just raising their hand. And I will stand on a mountaintop to get these women to raise their hand and lift them up if I can.
What was your defining moment that helped you realize that self-advocacy was the key to moving forward in your career?
Oh, good God. Good question. I would say when I worked in Vegas, so right after college, I moved out to Vegas. And I was the only female executive at an all men's table. And there was a woman who was in general counsel or legal. She didn't sit at the executive table because, well, she didn't want to come to the meetings, which to be fair, I didn't want to go to the meetings. But she pulled me aside one day. And it was a day that I just was trying to stick up for myself and trying to say my piece. And she said, I want to talk to you. And I was scared, right? Like no one wants a lawyer to talk to them. And she goes, people are going to call you a bitch. People are going to hate on you. Don't change anything that you are doing. You are strong, you are determined, and you know what you're talking about. Don't change for anyone. And it was the first time anyone said to me, go be yourself, but also notice that there are stereotypes around you. And what people expect you to act like versus what you should act like. And I took that with me. I mean, granted, I was still almost in tears, but I've taken that with me to this day that like I am me and like it or leave it, this is who I am.
Yeah. It's so freeing to just be able to bring yourself to the table, you know? I know for me, because I'm a male, but I'm also a black male. So when I first got started in corporate,
What?
like
You're
that,
black? That's
yeah.
surprising.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. It's the lighting kind of makes me look a little bit more
No, you
lighter.
look so good.
But when I first started in the corporate world, the elephant in the room was I'm young, I'm black, I'm
Yep,
leading all these people, and you're
absolutely.
not good enough. So I had the opposite feeling of you, right? No one really
Mhm.
came and gave me that confidence. The woman who gave me advice was almost like, don't be you, be better than you, which gave me the feeling of, okay,
Yeah,
I'm not good enough. So now I have to strive to be something that I'm not because I'm not accepted. You know, so having her come in and kind of like give you the empower you to be you, like especially at such a young journey, at such a young stage in your career, like I can see how that could just help you
yeah.
to just
It
propel. You
totally
know?
did, but, like, in your case and I do believe people need to give us, at a young age, a kick in the pants, right? Like, to, like, be
Yeah,
better. Like, I want someone to tell me to be better, but, like, I'm sorry at your age, like, you didn't get that because like, you need that to fulfill, like, who you become. You need
yeah.
someone to kinda go, "I see that you are gonna be bigger than where you are now."
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. I think maybe when it comes to the black community, there is an insecurity that a lot of older black people get, you know,
Mhm,
because of what they face in
mhm.
their generation. So sometimes they can pour that, at least from my perspective. I know there's other people
I
in
mean,
other
that's
places
the
where they've
same
gotten great.
in, like someone said, "Why don't you have more older, mentors?" And I said, "I don't have mentors because they had to be a man at the man's table. I'm not
Yeah.
willing to be a man. I'm
Yeah.
willing to be myself and
Yeah.
I'm going to find a seat at the table, but I'm not willing to do what the generation above me did. I'm just
Yeah.
not.
And
So
it's
it
really cool
does
because
change.
it's because that's a you found someone who found a different route that they
Mhm.
were able to get you know, because
Yeah.
there is like you said, there's a stereotypical route of be like this, be something that they can accept, be a safe option for them so
Mhm.
that they can accept you
Yep.
versus the person you met, she was like, no, you be you. They're gonna hate you and they won't accept you, but that's not gonna hinder your career.
Yeah. Don't stop being who you are.
Yeah. And that's one thing that
So important.
yes, so important. And at this stage in my career, like that's exactly where I'm at, where I'm gonna bring me to the
I
table
think
every
I've
time.
only figured that out in this stage in my career. Like
Wow.
she said it to me back then, but now is the only time that I'm like, oh, this is who I am. And I'm
Wow.
going to be that person. And people like that person. That's crazy.
Wow. So, being the only woman in these boardrooms, what were some of the challenges that you faced and how did you navigate them?
Oh my God. There were so many. There was one boardroom that I was always called the CEO's girl. You're my girl. You're my girl. I'm like, I'm a woman. But like, and so at a certain point, trying to figure out like where I fit in and what the right thing was and when I could speak up, when it was okay to not speak up. And that was really hard because you're trying to figure out like that correspondence between continuing to grow your career and at what point do you know that when you speak up, it might hinder your early on career is really hard. And I think it's hard for a lot of young women out there. In fact, that's what I focus a lot of my life on is helping young women who are still trying to figure out like, hey, this guy said this thing to me. What do I need to respond to it with? And I'm like, I mean, at the age of I'm like, you need to tell them to F off. Like, tell them to go fly a kite. But they can't. They can't because the only way for them to continue in their career is to acquiesce. And that is horrible and sad and not something we should condone, but it exists. And so figuring out what the right way to navigate and understand that is. So like I've been so blessed in my career that people have taken a shot on me and protected me and also because of my strong will and a determination and when I say determination, I stubbornness. I have told people to go away. I had a gentleman at one point he said he wanted to hire me. And I said, "Oh my God, that's so exciting." And then he goes, "Well, you've always been my hall pass." Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I know. You were like looking down and then you were like, whoa. But like, that's a thing. Like, this is still happening. And that happened last year. And I went, oh, I don't think you should hire me then. Like, I didn't, like, what do
Yeah.
you say to that? But like, I'm old enough to know how to sometimes deal with that. The younger women that I help focus my energy on, what are they going to do in that situation?
Yeah. And what are they going to do in that situation?
Hopefully reach out to other strong women like myself, like Kim DeCarlos, like Julie Zucker. There's so many strong women in our restaurant industry, Chrissy Olette, Tammy Billings, that they can reach out to and say, here's what happened to me. Can you help me? And you attach yourself to them and you say, this is what's happening. What do I do? And we all
Yeah.
help each other. And we've created a circle of trust, a circle of
Yeah.
caring, but it is scary. It's so scary for these young women.
Yeah. I really feel for you guys because early on, in my early 20s, when I was like pursuing music, I met this guy who was like a record producer. He had a studio, and like he was kind of like just help me like just understand music from a different level, help me break it down. And then it got to this weird moment where he started touching on my nose and I like hid it away. And then he tried to gaslight me as if it wasn't anything weird. But it's like in that moment, I'm like, wow, like so women, they get to this position of a man, they either have something over them or they have like these innuendos or there's like this unspoken thing that they're trying to get out of you.
Yep.
And you have to come like, okay, if I say no to this I do risk a lot, you know? So for you, there's like a risk versus reward. Like, what do you say? Is there a limit that certain women should put up with before they move on, or should they set the standard and set the tone immediately for what they're willing
Um,
to do?
that's a incredibly hard question. And part of it, like I understand when you say your music and you still are involved in music, let's be real. But like I also have a degree in acting and the casting couch was a thing and like all those things that back that up. So it was very similar, right? Like if someone called you to the casting couch, was the part worth it or was that guy worth it? Like how do you balance that? I think for young women, you have to decide where your integrity lies. And that's hard as a young age. Like, where's your integrity, your thought process, all of that? Where do you want that to be centered? And if you get in a situation and you didn't get in that situation, let's be honest, you were put in that situation where you feel uncomfortable, knowing that there are female allies out there that will help you, that will raise their voice, that will make sure your career does not die is really important. And it is scary when you think, hey, my career is about to die if I don't say yes, or I say, oh, ha 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 ha. And a lot of times it's as simple as that. Ha 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 ha, you're cute too. Like it's that simple. You don't have to do that. You are smart. You are worth it. You are beautiful. Come find your female ally. I have a button on my bag at all times that says Women in Restaurant Leadership. And anyone can find me and tell me what is going on with them and where they stand, and I will help them because your job does not rely on acquiescing to things that hurt your integrity.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
This is deeper than I thought we were going. Sorry.
Oh no, and this one is going to be kind of like a backup. But the next question I have is, why do people struggle with negotiating for themselves and advocating for themselves? Why is that a struggle?
I mean, I had that problem too early on. So I can negotiate for just about anyone else, but when it comes to myself, there is a feeling as a woman of imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? All those things. But I teach women all the time how to negotiate. And so when I teach women how to negotiate, I talk about you need to ask for 3 things. You might not get all 3 things. You may get 2. That's great. Ask for your salary if that's a thing. Ask for PTO. Ask for 401k or extra money on your incidentals, whatever it might be, but ask for 3 things and hopefully you'll get 2. However, when it comes to me, I struggle to do that as well. I coached a woman once who I said, let's negotiate this. She goes, I'm too scared to negotiate it over the phone. I said, okay. I said, what are you bringing to the table? Why are you going to kill this job? And she told me, no problem. how she was going to win at the job. No problem. Great. Got it. I said, all right, let's notate those. And I said, and so what's the issue? And she goes, well, I really want like 10K more in base. And I said, okay. So we wrote down everything she wanted, everything she was going to bring to the job, everything the job would entail. And I said, all right, let's ask for 50K more in base. She goes, no, they're going to kick me out. And I said, worst case, what are they going to say? No. All right, let's roll. Let's ask for PTO. And I believe we asked for one other thing. And so we get through that. She said, I can't do this in person. My voice will shake. That is completely fair. If your voice is going to shake, you write an email. She wrote an email. I checked her email. She sent the email. She got 50K more in base. 50K more in base. She got some of the PTO, and then the other thing, I can't remember what it was, but she didn't get that, which was fine. That was our third thing. And she called me sobbing. She said, I got 50K more in base and I only wanted 10K more. She goes, I don't even know what to say. And I said, don't say anything. You did it yourself. You did a great job. She said, no, you did it. The next day I had a bottle of Dom on my door, which, in case you're wondering, I don't drink Dom. I drink Pinot Grigio or Riesling in case you're sending me wine. And, or White Claw, I suppose.
White Claw. Yeah.
And she sent me an edible arrangement, and then she sent me a gift card. And I was like, stop sending me things. Like, you were the rock star. You were the person they hired. All you did was advocate for yourself. All you did was put forth what you deserved. And she's like, I would not be where I am now without you. And I still don't take credit for that. To this day, it was not me. It was 100% her. And I've done that for multiple women where you need someone to advocate for you. You need someone to say, you are a rock star. Let's do it. So negotiating, figuring out what you're worth, because as women, we tear ourselves down more than we build ourselves up. And we need to start building ourselves up.
Yeah. Wow.
That was a really long answer. Sorry.
No, I love that answer. And I have a question to follow up, which is, why do we diminish our value for acceptance of others?
For all the reasons. Like you said, well, I'm Black, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I feel small, or maybe I'm not tall enough, or I'm a little skinnier than I wanted to be, or a little fatter than I wanted to be, or no one's going to like me. I said the other day at a conference on a panel, I said, when I walk into every conference I walk into, I say, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. And I walk into that conference, and within about 2 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so smart and everybody loves me. But the moment you walk in, our inner critic is our hardest critic. And I wish I had a hype man that followed me around all day long and told me how great I was, but I don't. And so I'm constantly arguing with the voice in my head to tell me that I'm good enough to be in this room, to be around, like even to be around you. Like, you're phenomenal. And you talk about your voice career and the things you do. Like, I was so impressed by you that I was like, I don't deserve to be around him. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, but that's where our minds go, where we're like, we don't belong in this room, versus making each other, reminding each other that we all belong together.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's one thing that I've become a lot more secure in now, right? Because growing up, I was in my brother's shadow, and then I was always skinny, and then like doing music, I would hide behind the microphone. So now I feel like doing this I've been so much more exposed in the last few years.
Yeah.
And I remember like, I saw a picture like a couple months ago of myself, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually a pretty good looking guy. Like, I'm tall. Like, it's not that
to be fair, I've never looked at a picture of myself and been like, wow, she's gorgeous.
Oh, no.
You're ahead of me. Of me.
But I think I realized like my whole life, I really did feel small.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, just even the way like my posture is, I would literally just position myself to be small to make everybody else feel comfortable.
Oh my God. My dance teacher the other day was like, you're really owning your space. What's going on? I was like, I don't know. I'm just like taking up the world here.
And that's great. And you should be able to own who you are and not suppress who you are for other people. You know what I mean?
100%.
So I think just a lot recently, and just getting around the right people who are like they're not hyping me up, but they're just instilling and empowering me
Yeah.
to go further, to be better. And that's been something that's been just a blessing in my life right now.
Well, when you circle yourself around the right people, right?
Exactly. And it also exposes the fact that a lot of our insecurities are because a lot of our lives we were around the wrong people.
I
Like our
mean,
inner
can we
critic.
call our parents the wrong people? No offense, mom and dad, but like they push you to be the best you can possibly be, but at a certain point you're like, "Okay, I don't need that anymore. I need this." Right?
Yeah. Was that a big struggle that you had, like internally, like just hearing their words? Would it reverberate throughout your thoughts?
My mom used to say, she said to me one day, she goes, "Do you think the reason you're type A and so critical of yourself is because of me?" And I said, "Oh, 100%. 100%. You were the reason." Yes, no. You 100% pushed me to be who I am, which is great because of who I am. But on the flip side, I'm incredibly self-critical. I'm really hard on myself. I have a hard time with self-compassion because she wanted me to be the best, and the best to her was like as far as I could possibly reach. And so that was really hard to understand, but it's because both my parents were blue collar working parents, and all they wanted more than anything was for me to be better than where they were. I'm going to cry. And they are, and I am. I have really gone farther than where they are or were, but they're the ones that push me to get there. But at a certain point, you have to say, I can't handle that voice. I can't handle the voice saying I'm not good enough. I need to go higher. And I need a voice to say, you are good enough. And that's really hard, but you need both voices in your life. And I'm so blessed and lucky to have the parents I had, but I also needed to figure out when that voice needed to stop and I needed to say I'm okay. Sorry.
No, here I'm over here getting emotional too. Like just because like it's similar for me. My daddy
Yeah.
really pushed me to be the best, and a lot of his pushing resulted in me being humiliated.
Mhm.
Being constant humiliation and feeling like I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So then I felt like being good enough is something that I can ever attain. And in all reality, everything's always going to be subjective.
Well,
There's
the
no
ladder
like
goes forever. So you
exactly,
can't, when people are like, you need to keep going, you're like, where to where? And you don't want to
exactly,
feel that horrible feeling. You want to feel like, hey, this rung of the ladder is good. Okay, this
yeah,
rung of the ladder is good.
exactly, exactly. There's a contentment that you should have internally
Correct.
that should give you peace in whatever stage you are.
Mhm.
You don't want to be satisfied with mediocrity, or you never want to be satisfied with just where you're at.
Correct.
But you also don't want to be so critical of who you are that you just feel like you're innately just not good enough.
Exactly.
Do you deal with a lot of people who you help with negotiating, and you help with like whether it be mentoring, who do have, oh my gosh, I forgot the word, imposter syndrome?
Yes, yes. Oh my god. I deal with people that are my level or higher. I talked to a CEO 3 days ago who literally said, "Oh, my imposter syndrome is real." And I said, "Don't tell me more because you're pretty high." And she goes, "No, it's really hard because like I'm never going to be as good enough." I was like, "Oh my god, you are good enough. You are better than them. What are you talking about? You're never going to be as good enough." And in her mind, she lucked out. And she goes, "I just really lucked out." And I was like, "Oh, we have to go sit down." I literally, like, my knees were weak. I was like, "We have to sit down." You didn't luck out. You weren't blessed to do this, which to be fair, I've said that too. I've said, I'm so blessed. You, sorry to swear, you worked to get here. You did everything you had to do. You probably did more than the people around you. Get rid of this. Get rid of the imposter syndrome. And she goes, "Can you be around me all the time?" And I was like, "I would love to be. Can you pay me to be around you all the time?" However, like she had the same feeling we all have. I don't care if you are a $30,000 a year coordinator or you're a $400,000 a year CMO, CEO. We all have that same feeling that, like, will someone find out? How did I look into this role? You didn't. You know what you're doing. You are smart. Maybe there's like one or two people in the world that lucked into their role, but the rest of us, especially females, we worked our off to get where we're at.
Okay, if you give me three keys on getting rid of imposter syndrome, what would be the top three things that you have to like shift in your mind to really break free from that?
Surrounding yourself with amazing tribe, right? So amazing women who remind you that you are strong and you are smart. Um, being open to feedback, not feedback to say like you're not good enough, but feedback to be like, hey, you should change this. Okay, great. You're going to keep going. You're going to keep growing. And then you have to use positive affirmations. Mel Robbins talks about it a lot. In fact, I'm reading her book, Let Them, right now, which the whole theory is just like let people do whatever the F they want. Stop worrying about it is really the theory. And you think that should be easy, but it's so hard. So, what if we actually let them and stopped worrying about what people wanted to say about us and worry about what we want to feel about ourselves and those positive affirmations? And she's a big fan. Mel Robbins says high five, the 5-second high five, like you just have to high five yourself or say positive things, which sounds lame and sounds corny to look in the mirror and be like, I'm beautiful, I'm smart. But it's like a neural pathway you have to rebuild. And especially as people who are constantly given criticism, building that neural pathway is huge. And it's so hard because you feel corny doing it. You feel silly high fiving yourself. You feel silly saying, I'm beautiful. And then someone else says you're beautiful. And you're like, oh, I am. Thank you. But like if I say I'm beautiful, that sounds weird. So like really getting in the know of feeling like who you are and being in the know. So that was a lot to say. You have to talk positively about yourself. You have to surround yourself with good people and you have to live the life you want.
I love that. So I'm writing so much notes down right now.
There's so many notes. We don't even know what's happening over there.
So I kind of want to switch gears and kind of talk about survivor's remorse, because I feel like for me, like I know when I first moved out of my parents' house and I was in college and like I was working, I had reached a stability that my parents didn't even have at that time.
Mhm.
And also, it actually caused me to make certain sacrifices in my own personal life and in my marriage for them because of that feeling of guilt. So, my next question for you is like, what kind of advice would you give to people who do have survivor's remorse?
That's a really heavy question for me. I think I had survivor's remorse. I think I've had it before, even before that. And I think I still have it. And it's that you are good enough, that you need a journal. Get your notebook out and start taking notes on where you want to be, how you feel about where you want to be, and what's going on in your life because your mind can get like a spider web. And I'll be the first to say, like, my mind will just crisscross all day long. And I'm like, where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? That's going to help you through survivor's remorse. That's going to help you figure out where you want to go from here because it is challenging. And then again, it goes back to that tribe. It's really important. I came out of my husband had a tragic accident and I came out of that over a year later sobbing. And my therapist said, you're coming out of shock. And I said, I don't think so. I said, that was a year ago. And she said, no, but this is shock. You're coming out of shock. And I said, how do I deal with it? And she goes, the only way through is through. Well, that's bullshit. I don't want to go through. I will take it away. And the only way through is through. So you're journaling, you're meditating. Someone told me to do yoga. I told them to F off because, like, that's not my jam. But figuring out what the right thing is for you to find your center, to find who you are and where you belong is so important because if you don't deal with it, it's going to get worse. It's like it festers. So you have to figure out, how do I deal with these emotions? The survivor feeling, you're in the quicksand. How do I get through the quicksand? And reaching out to friends and saying, this sucks. And oftentimes friends have gone through it too.
Wow. A lot of what we're talking about with survivor's remorse, with imposter syndrome, with like just insecurities, it seemed like a lot of that could be the fuel that gets someone to become a CEO. The feeling of never being good enough, that's what fuels them to the top. So for those people who have been fueled by that their whole life, how do you get a new fuel that's going to help you to continue to progress, but from a healthier standpoint?
Also, a really good question. So you are correct that a lot of CEOs are either have some sort of narcissism or have had some sort of bad childhood. That does happen quite often. However, um, figuring out what fuels you and who you are and who you want to become are almost different questions. So I'm not saying when I say you should be content with where you are, you shouldn't be content in a way to be like, oh, I've acquiesced. I will only be a coordinator the rest of my life. No, you still have to have that gumption, that go get 'em, that learning nature. But what I'm saying is every step of that journey to try and find the bright light in it. So when I think about my journey, there was a lot of things in my journey. But when I think about it, I wouldn't change it because it's what got me here. And there were a lot of very positive moments in that. So finding those little positive moments, those glimmers of hope, those bright shining stars, who's teaching you and leaning in and saying yes. There's a leadership book from Second City called Yes and. So the idea is in improv, if I'm doing improv with someone, yes, and you build on it. So if you say, I'm going to a funeral, I'd be like, yeah, and it's your dad's funeral, like whatever. I built on it, right? And he would be like, yeah, and the goat's funeral, and he built on it, right? Like, yes, and it's not. By the way, my dad's very much alive, but this idea that you build off of something and you grow something. And if you can think inquisitively and positively about those things, you're going to become the leader you want to be without tearing yourself down or feeling like you're not good enough.
Well, that's great. Okay, so the last topic that we have, just as we come closer to a close, is just riding the ship. Right, when your career is off course, how do you get that? How do you get it on course? And like you said, if you have acquiesced or you did feel like, if I want to progress, I'm going to have to make some
Yeah.
sacrifices in my integrity that I'm not willing to do. Like if people have like kind of a bad mentality that has kind of caused their career path to plateau, what advice would you give them on how to
Mhm.
regain their career and take it by the horns?
So your first part of that question was when your career goes off course. And my first thought was, why is your career off course? And what course? Have you decided what course you have to be on? I will tell you that I started out my journey deciding I was going to be a famous actor. Turns out I am not, in case anyone's wondering, a famous actor. However, my friends are. I ended up in training and talent development. Then I ended up in marketing, internet marketing, digital marketing, and now all marketing. I've worked in every industry out there. So when you think of yourself as like being taken off course, you have to think, who decided what course I was on? And I'm not saying people have to believe in God, but like he has a course as far as I'm concerned. My course is not the same as his course, unfortunately, as much as I'd like it to be. And so I've gone through multiple courses, but thinking everything happens for a reason. So I remember in Vegas, the recession hit, I lost my job. I was in theater and I thought, oh my God, I just bought a house. I'm definitely going to be poor and homeless. And Caesars Entertainment, Megan was her name. She said, what do you want to do? She was in recruiting. I said, I'll do anything. And she goes, like, what kind of job? And I looked on the website for what kind of jobs they had open. I was like 23. And I said, I don't know. It looks like you have an executive housekeeper open. I could do that. I could clean rooms. I'd probably be really good at cleaning rooms. And she goes, okay, what do you know about internet marketing? And I said, I have the Facebook. And that's literally how I was at the lowest I could be. I had bought a house. I could not pay for my house. I was about to lose my house. and my job. And the recession in Vegas was very, very difficult. It was hard for everyone, but like very difficult in Vegas. Everybody was losing their jobs. And she said, "What do you know about internet marketing?" I said, "I have the Facebook." And I started at the bottom and I worked my way up, and I'm still in marketing. In fact, I'm a CMO. I've been a CMO for multiple companies. But it was very hard in that moment to say that everything happens for a reason. Now I can look back and go, everything happens for a reason, right? So remembering that, as hard as it is for all of us, everything happens for a reason.
Oh, that's great. I grew up in Vegas, so we were out there in Henderson during the whole
Mhm.
recession. So my parents, their business was greatly affected by that.
Yeah.
But I think what you said is so important, is just to have that outlook of not allowing life to defeat you, but understanding that life is a journey, you know? And like I said, like when you grow up and you think that you will be good enough and you will attain the trophy of, this is your Grammy or this is your Oscar, like that sometimes can discourage you. And it kind of like, will, it kind of gets you to like lose sight on the purpose of life.
The
It's not to
actual
get
journey,
somewhere.
right? Like
Yeah,
the
it's to
journey.
enjoy every single moment, not focus on what you want to get and what you want to attain. Like it'll come, but just enjoy every aspect of life today, because that's all we have today is today.
100%. And I have a wall. You can't see it, but it's over there. The wall is full of pictures of accolades and awards, kind of like the Grammy type thing.
Yeah.
Those don't mean anything anymore, right? Like it was a moment in time. Now it matters what happens today and how the journey happens. And that's completely different than the random picture on my wall.
Wow. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I have so many questions, but I'm like, we'll be talking for
No,
like
I
four
love it.
hours.
It's so easy to talk to you.
It's easy to talk to you. Like I really, really appreciate this and all the information you've given me. Like I said, I've been writing things down, and I'm like, as you're talking, I'm like, wow, we relate so much. Like this
Singing,
is great.
theater, we have
Singing,
so many
yeah,
things.
dancing and all that. I don't
Yeah.
dance, but I make music to dance to. So yeah.
Awesome.
But thank you so much for being a part of the Prosper Brief, Erin. We really
you.
appreciate you. And we're excited to see you in October. You will be at the Accelerate conference.
Yep.
So that's going to be really fun.
Thank you.
Erin, thank you again for being a part of this episode of the Prosper Brief. To all of our listeners, we thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and it made an impact on you, we invite you to like, share, and subscribe so that you can hear future episodes of the Prosper Brief.